Welcome back, everyone, to CNM and the PM. It's your boys, Joe and Michael, back
Yup.
at it again.
Not wearing
What?
white Vans.
Oh, it's week 4. Uh, Weeks 1 and 2 have been uploaded. I was not feeling good the last few days, so week 3 has not been uploaded yet, but it will be soon. Probably tomorrow. I've got a paper due tomorrow.
Bold statements.
It'll probably be uploaded Monday. Um, if I'm going to be honest, but this week will be on schedule. I can assure you of that. You can catch us, obviously, if you're listening right now. Excuse me. I'm very tired, as you will be able to find out listening to this. You can catch the podcast live streamed at 11 p.m.'s twitch.tv at CNM in the PM. You can also potentially find us throughout the week. I will be at casual joe underscore gaming
And I'll be
on
at Mikester
twitch.tv.
390 at twitch.tv.
Yep. Although I don't know that either of us have streamed at all since we've started this podcast, which is ironic.
I have like once or twice, but like with the new job, I am beat.
Oh, that reminds me. I did stream the other day at like 3 in the morning for an hour
Oh yeah? Look
because
at
I was
you.
just lonely. I was just like, there's the off chance someone hops into the stream. And I
Dude,
don't have the stream set up to auto record, so it's just gone into the abyss. But yeah, I'm just like kind of sedated, talking quietly, doing some stuff, and then I'm just like,
knowing
yeah,
Bunsen,
well,
he could hop in there, man. Like, it could happen.
yeah, I know. But yeah, it was like an hour into it. The game I was playing didn't go as planned, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna call it and go try to find people some other way. But yeah,
Fair enough.
so I have streamed, but that's I think the only stream I've had since we've started the podcast.
The weird thing is, my streams aren't. If I do end up streaming, it won't be like at my regular times. Because normally, like, this is when I'd start streaming, or like 9 o'clock. But like
Yeah.
9:30 is bedtime, man. Like I have an alarm set for 4:30 in the morning. 9:30 is bedtime.
Do you actually have to get up at 4?
I get up at 4:30. I go downstairs, make my lunch, make some breakfast, and then I hop in the car by 5:45.
That's crazy.
And then I get home at about 5:45.
Yes,
If
12-hour
traffic's
day.
good.
How far away is the shop?
Between 35 and 45 minutes depending on traffic that morning.
Oh, okay.
But, 15 minutes early and all that nice stuff, stopping for a coffee on the way in because there's a Tim's not too
Yeah.
far away from my house, so I stop at Tim's and then drink it by the time I get there.
Yeah. On the note of work, I have put in um one, two, 4 or 5 job applications
Wow.
to different positions since Thursday. Yeah.
Look at you
I've
go.
I applied to Best Buy, and then I applied to a couple of different positions at a couple of different Starbucks in the area.
I would
Um,
love to walk into a Starbucks and have
and
you
see
in
me.
there. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I I like coffee. I like coffee shops. I'm not a big fan of Starbucks, but like obviously I'll drink it. And so Best Buy I think would be ideal because they pay better and there's a fat employee discount on
Oh.
purchases from Best Buy. But the other thing is I'm not particularly materialistic, so I don't know that I would buy a lot from Best Buy. I would definitely buy some things, don't get me wrong. Wouldn't be completely wasted, but like I have a buddy that works for
Snowball.
Best Buy and he orders stuff like daily or close to daily,
Oh
and
Jesus.
that couldn't be me. On the flip side, Starbucks wouldn't pay as well, but would potentially be a more interesting work atmosphere. Not necessarily a better one, but definitely more interesting, higher pace. as well as the benefits are free food and free coffee, probably based off of like shift.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would use that.
Oh yeah. I feel like
And
if I
then
walked into a Starbucks and you were standing there, you would be giving off the same vibes that Big Man does when I walk into his store. Like
I
just
haven't
chill
actually met.
vibes. You walk in, he's
Yeah.
like, "Hey."
Oh yeah, I'd be super friendly. Like I think I would get a lot of tips off of personality, off of appearance. I gotta hit the gym, but
Oh, buddy,
I'd hit the gym to make more tips.
I, you were born just incorrectly to get a lot of tips working in any serving job. I'll be honest with you, buddy.
Are you calling me ugly?
No, I'm saying you're not female.
Oh. No, if I'm friendly and I'm like buff, I'll just intimidate them and give me stuff into giving me
Hey,
tips, right?
you gotta leave a tip or
First
what?
first charisma check is persuasion, and it's like, "Oh, he's a nice guy. Yeah, like maybe I'll give him a tip."
The
And it's like,
second is
"Oh,
intimidation.
you're not going to give me a tip? Really? Are you
Lifts
you
up
sure
the
about
fucking
that?"
coffee machine. What did you say? One handed grips it over his head.
Yeah.
About that
So,
tip, huh?
I'd enjoyed the free coffee and free food. It also gives you free Spotify, which I assume means free Spotify Premium, so that you can like play music at the store location. Which I don't have a very Starbucks friendly taste in music. I say that like my sister does. And so like I'm at the edge of Starbucks friendly like alternative music, so I could find stuff to play.
I would love to walk into a Starbucks, see, not knowing you as a person, see a tall, bigger guy behind the counter with just grandson absolutely fucking blaring when I walk in the door. I'd go to that Starbucks every damn day.
I mean, in a sense, it's Starbucks friendly in that like a lot of my music has anarchist undertones or overtones depending on how you look at it. But on the other hand, like me personally, I hate corporations just as much, if not more than the government. Because as much as the government sucks, corporations are just governments for profit.
Yeah, they're just governments that don't let the people choose what they do.
Like the government is also for profit, but it claims that it's there for the citizens, and some people actually believe that. Corporations are for profit
Oh,
and kind of
100%.
claim that they're for customers, but don't actually mean it, and everybody knows that.
Customer
And like
service is important to us unless it costs us money.
yeah, so I'm just like, on the one hand, I'm like, yes, people that go to coffee shops and are like kind of the Starbucks goer are probably going to be like, yeah, down with the government, blah blah blah, down with corporations. But then at the same time, they're going to
Let me drink my
Starbucks, so
$14
obviously
Starbucks coffee.
they're not that committed to hating corporations. Um, but yeah, that's another plus because I've been a college student for 3.5 years now and have never had Spotify Premium because even though it's cheaper for college students, I've just never felt like paying the $5 a month. That's
You
too
could
much
give me
money.
mine. I could give you mine. Like, I'll
No,
just give
no,
you
no,
my
no, no.
username and password, and you can use mine. Like,
At this point, it's the principle that counts. I mean, I'm sure you would actually enjoy me having
I
access
would
to it and
love
creating
that.
playlists.
I absolutely would.
Well,
You
we'll
know
have
who
to
else
talk
has your
later.
playlist downloaded?
Who? Olivia?
Olivia. Yeah. I showed it to her, and she was like, "Can you send me that?" I was like, "Absolutely, I can."
I don't think Dark Matter's that incredible of a playlist, but okay.
But it's
It's
just
it's literally just grandson,
it's
Mizio, and then a few
it's songs
highlights.
we enjoy from artists that we, well, at least
Don't
Mizio and stuff, we
yeah.
didn't have, I didn't have a lot of songs of, and she didn't have a lot of songs from any of them, so
All right. So I know what we talked about talking about this week, but do we want to just skirt and talk about music instead?
yeah, I think absolutely we should talk about music after the conversation we've had so far.
Yeah, can you imagine it's episode 4. Talk about this thing. Episode 5. Talk about that thing. Episode 6. Talk about the thing that we had the perfect setup for in episode 4, but didn't go through with.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Planning.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about music.
All right. Yeah, we've already even talked about music earlier today. For those listening, earlier today I complained to Michael because someone, a meme account that I follow on Instagram, posted
Oh
their
my
top
gosh,
10 songs for the
that's
gym,
brutal.
like their hype songs. And
It's
I
fucking
listened to
good.
all 10, and one of them was a good hype song. The rest were not bad songs. They just weren't hype songs. And literally, the guy described the number one song, which wasn't the good hype song. And he was like, if you don't listen to this and immediately want to run through a wall, you're broken. And I'm like,
And he named the song, and I was like, ah, I think you're
yeah,
incorrect, sir.
like maybe a neurotypical person would listen to that and be like, oh, yeah, I'm hyped. But my ADHD cracked out brain like exists at that level, anyways.
Yeah, you gotta
Like
fucking
I'm
step
willing
it
to
up,
run
all
through
right?
a wall at any time. Like my high school had some like fake walls that they put up to make some rooms smaller, and I always for years was like, if they ever close this school down and I'm filthy rich, I'm buying the school, turning it into a huge indoor paintball course, and I'm
Just
running through these
book,
walls.
yeah. Oh, 100%.
These fake walls here, plowing through them. Like I am ready to run through a wall at a
What do you
drop of a hat.
What do you mean?
Kool-Aid man.
What do you mean if the school shuts down and I'm filthy rich? Fucking last day of high school, I'm running through that shit.
No, I had a I have a bit more riding on my academic reputation than you do, Michael. No offense.
What? I applied and got into university. Okay.
Yes. Are you currently in university?
No.
I am. And I have more university after this.
Just because I dropped out before I got there doesn't mean.
Yeah. So for me, like my music has to be if I'm trying to get excited, like workout music,
Oh,
it has to be at the
it's
point
gotta
of
be
like
going.
this music, I would play this while running through an actual battlefield with live rounds and explosions and feel invincible. Like I
Yeah,
call it auditory cocaine. I need
yeah.
my music to be similar in level to actual drugs. And I've talked to people who have done cocaine. So I have a kind of idea as to how far I need to go, and I'm going there.
You need to. I need to send you next time I'm cruising with Scotty. I need to send you a video because we sent it to Scotty's female friend,
Hmm.
and she thought we were on crack.
I'm gonna watch it, and it's just gonna be the most basic, like boys stuff ever. Like just boys being boys.
Oh, 100% it is, but it's boys being boys on a night where like we get into it, we're into it, man. Like once
Yeah.
we commit, we've committed.
Oh, I mean, my brother's not here to tell you, and I don't know if at any point he'll be on the podcast. I don't have a problem with him being on the podcast. I just don't know if he's interested. I will be screaming along to the music and violently thrashing my body while
Oh yeah.
driving,
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
like
exactly what we said to
hardcore
her.
headbanging. And
And
I'm
like
just like, if a cop saw what I was doing right now, I have to imagine I'd be pulled over for reckless or something.
yeah.
Like,
Oh no,
there's no way.
100%. Me and Scotty, if like we'll get two or three real good songs in a row, and then it does not matter what comes on after that. We
Yeah,
are gone. Like by that point, we're gone, and there's no coming back. As long as it's an upbeat song, still,
yeah,
we're done. Like we're going nuts.
yeah. So the actual music that we're listening to, because we keep being vague because we're vague about a lot of things to like protect certain people's privacy or just protect different stuff because it's the internet. But like if we're going to talk about music, we have
We
to
can
be a little
say,
less vague.
yeah.
Yeah, we can say various artists. So like for me, um
We've already mentioned like grandson. Um,
grandson whose music is very anti-establishment, anti-state. It's I don't quite know how to classify this specific genre. I'll just look up.
Anti-large groups of people who make money off of other people.
um, because it's
I didn't know until I
okay.
saw the
So,
playlist that that was in Suicide Squad, which I thought was super cool.
oh, what the
Rain.
rain? Yeah,
Yeah.
that song
I had
goes
heard
hard.
Rain before, but I just didn't realize it was in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, so it's listed as alternative rock, alternative hip hop, trap, EDM, punk. I don't know about
Punk?
some of that, but punk matches. I would say that musically and even just personality, and you may disagree with this, but probably not, because I think my sister agrees with this. I am punk. I don't
Oh,
dress it,
100%.
but just personally, if you meet me and you actually get to talk to me about like my personal opinions on things or my
Oh, yeah.
attitudes towards certain things or people, I am hardcore punk. That should probably just be obvious from listening to the podcast. But also, like, I'm not a mean person. I'm incredibly nice. I'm incredibly gracious. Try to think of myself as a good host. Like I'm a very friendly, positive person to be around.
But also.
But I hate everyone, and internally I'm murdering everyone around me and just hate these steps. Everything punk. And I
I
don't really
love that.
dress punk because I've never had money to dress myself how I really want. That being said, I have a pair of work boots that I really enjoy and a
Me
black
too.
denim jacket. And that's if I'm wearing jeans, those work boots, that jacket, I probably got a hoodie on or a flannel under that jacket. But if I'm wearing that combo, like I probably have a resting bitch face during that because I'm just in my punk mood and outfit, which it's not even a hardcore punk outfit, but it is enough. Like I put a couple tears in it here or there, pull out switchblade, and it looks the part.
Bro, bro, you just described me showing up to work. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
So
sorry, instead of denim, it's leather.
I
But
would wear leather,
other than
but
that, it's the
I bought it.
same.
Yeah. So grandson is very good because he's punk. It gets me in the mood. It brings up my energy
Whoa,
level.
whoa.
Like not in that kind of mood. I don't have any music that puts me in the mood for relations with a person that I am attracted to.
Not
Um,
even Marvin Gaye's "Let's Get It On." Wow.
no, I dislike that song so much. um, but no, like it gets me in a good mood and it gets me energetic. But it's not like, oh, I'm gonna go rip and tear through something or run through a wall. It's like what I was saying earlier. It's music that if I were already running through walls, I would keep running through walls, but I wouldn't start running through walls because I was listening to it.
Yeah.
Maybe one song here or there, but in general. Um and so that's true for a few other artists that are of a couple of different genres. So there's like some Eminem songs that are going to be really good. Some Logic songs because I'm a white guy, so I'm only going to listen to white rappers. That's a joke. Please don't
I don't
cancel
know
me.
if I have any Logic songs downloaded just because I'm not a huge fan of his music.
Yeah, I have 3 of his songs on my gym playlist, but one of them is also a collab with Eminem,
I
so
do,
that
yeah, and I know
I'm
exactly
keeping
what
them.
song it is. I know exactly what song it
Homicide.
is because it's the only song of his I have. Yeah.
I
Homicide.
I his song Every Day with Marshmello, that is a very like I'll listen to that song and bang out an essay. That song really gets me in a productive mood. And then I Am the Greatest makes me feel like I'm on top of the world, which kind of makes
Oh,
sense based
really?
off the title alone.
No.
Yeah. And then the only other artist slash group that I want to talk about, like specifically for me, uh, before we move on to some stuff that you like, is this Swedish band called Sabaton,
Okay.
who is a power metal band. They're very
Oh.
it's a very mainstream metal band. And I'm not a metalhead. So if you hear this and think that I have some weird opinions about metal or sound like a noob, it's because I am. Don't try to talk to me about metal music. It's not that I don't like metal music. It's just I haven't went through the effort of listening to a lot of it, because it does take effort to get into new genres of
Oh
music.
yeah.
And so I stumbled upon Sabaton. I had a friend that listened to them for years. But Sabaton is Swedish. It's a Swedish band that does power metal, but all of their music is military history.
Oh, I
And so
have heard
as
them.
a yeah,
Oh, I
so
know exactly
as
what
a
you're talking about
history
now.
major, I love listening to them because it gets me excited. It gets me like ready for war, which I'm obviously just some college kid playing video games, but it gets me hyped. Um, and a lot of it's good material as far as like historical accuracy, not good enough to quote in an essay. I think I'd get in trouble if I did that. But they do a lot of research, and my understanding of their story is they recorded an album in Italy called Metalizer. But then due to restrictions with customs, I don't know, something about foreign relations, they weren't able to release Metalizer until after they released um, their album Primo Victoria. And Primo Victoria is so their first released album, but not technically their first recorded album. For that, they had the track for what they wanted the big song on the album to be, but they couldn't think of the lyrics. And so they decided they want it to be something big, something important, and decided to write it on the Normandy invasion of in D-Day in World War II.
Oh, okay.
And so when they did that, they were like, wow, this song slaps so hard. This is so fun. And the whole research process, they loved it. They fell in love immediately. And so since then, every song on every album, to my understanding, has been history related because they just loved doing the research so much and telling the stories. Um, so their music I find incredibly fun. It is a lot of it is what I talk about, like headbanging in the car too, and wildly thrashing around, and have trouble sitting still, or I crack out essays ridiculously fast. Because just the BPM, the sound, because it's huge, like orchestral music as well to some extent. So I think their music is really fun, and I'll have to if I do get your Spotify account, I'll have to put together something with them for y'all.
Yeah. The We've been talking about hype music, right? And
Hmm.
I can't just hop into a hype song and start listening to that as the first song I listen to, even like before a football game, even when I still played football, or before a hockey game, anything like that. I always had to like build to it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I can't just jump in and go. Like I can, but it's not gonna give me the same kind of like I'm ready to go take some kids' heads off when I'm at football. Like it won't give me the same kind of feeling. I'm like, oh man, this is a really good song. Like I'll start off with some softer classic rock, and then get into some harder classic rock, and then move into like my hype songs with newer rap and older like just rap songs, hard rap songs.
Yeah.
Like on my hype playlist because I just organize. I don't have any more. Um, but like I have Chili Peppers,
Hmm.
um, the Interpreters, Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, some Motley Crue, and then it starts going into some Grandson,
Is
NLE
the
Choppa, Migos, and like I start off easy and then I just keep going that way.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I tried to do that with my one workout playlist, and then I found that the pacing, I kind of did it, but the pacing is still like Not quite. So the first song still is pretty high up.
Mine
It
isn't right anymore
escalates
because
very
it's
quickly.
been 2 years since I've used it. So Ashley's been
Uh,
messing with them, my sister. For
yeah,
those of you who don't know, um, but so it's not anywhere. Ashley just hops right in. She just starts
yeah.
with whatever song comes on, and she puts it on shuffle like a lunatic. But like if I
I
remade it, there's some songs that I would definitely add back in.
I have very few, if any, playlists that are in any particular order because I've never had premium, so I've only been able to shuffle on my phone. So it's pointless to try and put it in an order. Now, when I use the desktop version, I can select my music, and so that's why I've started organizing some stuff. But yeah,
What I'm hearing is you need a laptop.
I do have a laptop.
You play so now you do all your workouts with a backpack on.
No,
You just plug headphones into your laptop.
I don't know if that would work with the laptop closed.
um, I
I
can't
would
test
have to
that at the moment.
experiment, but I'm still not willing to go to the gym with a backpack on.
Doing bench presses with a backpack on.
Yeah, I just break the computer.
That's a
Well, no, I'd
lot of.
have to put the computer next to the
Yeah, you could take the backpack
bench.
off. Like, there's enough.
Yeah.
There's enough cable room there. I feel like for a set of headphones, or if you Bluetooth, like,
Yeah, if I had a private gym or went to a smaller gym where I could just set the laptop up in the corner of the room with Bluetooth, but
oh yeah,
or I just pay for Spotify because if I'm paying for a gym membership, then
that's true.
like because right now I have free gym access as a student, but I don't know that I don't really want to use the campus gym.
Our high school gym was so small. Like, just because of how small our high school was, you could walk into the gym room, plug your phone into the gym's sound system because it's a soundproof room.
Hmm.
Plug your phone into the gym's sound system and play music, and no one would say anything about it because no one ever went in there. Like, the only people who went
Yeah.
in there are football players, and we all basically liked the same music, so anyone who walked in was like, hey, I love this song.
Yeah, I do have very different music for non-hype,
Oh yeah,
which
that's
is
well.
what
That's
we
why
were
I wanted to
talking
stay on
about.
the topic of
Yeah,
hype because I didn't want to just go into my music because boy oh boy is
yeah.
that a can of worms.
I hate the question, "What kind of music do you listen to?" Because it's so hard to
Yes,
explain.
all of
Like,
it.
even just saying Swedish power metal as just, like, one subset of things is hard to explain, let alone, like, trying to then explain what, like, synthwave is and, vaporwave, and then just the genre that is alternative, and then you get into punk and emo and just it's a mess. It's a
Yeah,
mess. It's all a mess.
you know what? I'm just going through Spotify on my phone while we're talking about music, and a
Mhm.
really good band. They're from Australia, and they're called the Teschi Brothers, and
I am not familiar.
they are a jazz group. And someone's listening to the music like, oh, Michael, that's not jazz, that's blues. That's the same shit, just slower. Okay? That is the same shit, and then they slowed it down so they could fit more words in. Okay? And it is.
Yeah.
I love their music. They have like Chicago, Boston, New Orleans style jazz and blues, and man, is it good.
Yeah, I'm listening to it right now.
Um,
Definitely a
what's
vibe.
the song called? There's a specific. Louisa. Listen to Louisa. That'll be the one that's got real good. I think it's Chicago. It might be Boston. I'd have to listen to it, but I can't because anything I try and listen to it on will come through on the stream, and therefore will come
Yep.
through on
No, I'm
all of the
listening to it.
recordings.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of jazz, but when I say that, I more so refer to like instrumental jazz that is without vocals because all of the instruments that are like very important and very forward in jazz, I love. but I don't love jazz enough to just listen to those instruments alone. I don't know. I shouldn't say I need
I
lyrics because synthwave doesn't have lyrics.
I agree. Where um, jazz, I love the sound of jazz. I love playing jazz, but I cannot listen to a fully instrumental jazz song all the way through
Yeah.
because eventually you get to a point where because jazz is just 16 notes played in
Hmm.
succession with different beats in between, eventually it just starts like it just gets repetitive even though they are changing the tempo and the spacing, it still gets
Yeah.
repetitive. I
I
love
just
playing it. I could play jazz for hours and just play the same 16 and it would not
yeah.
get repetitive to me. But uh, listening
I
to
just
it's a
feel
whole different
like
thing.
I should like jazz and I don't. Like not just a should as in like culturally everyone should like jazz because it's good or elite or something. But like me personally and what I enjoy about so much of music, I'm like jazz should definitely be in my wheelhouse. And it's just not. It's just never clicked.
I got into jazz because I started playing jazz because I played the saxophone, and playing jazz on the saxophone is way more fun than playing anything rock
Yeah.
straight music. Like as soon as you get to start, because like on a trumpet, you can do those hard punches that you get in rock, and you can't really do that on a sax. Like you can if you're good. As someone who played the saxophone for like 4 years, I was not that good.
Yeah.
Like I was okay. I could play all right, but I was not like good. But with jazz, you can just put a slur over the entire sheet music where you just blur all the notes together and it sounds great. Like that's how it's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
We got we got a sheet of music I remember in class and there was a word above the start of the because music's all the words for music are in Italian because why would they put them in English in the 20th century when we can read the English and it was written by someone in the US.
Yeah.
So it was an Italian word that I was like, I don't fucking know what this means. Hey, what does this mean? And she's like, oh, it basically means it's all slurred. And I was like, what? I'm listening. And so the whole thing was slurred. And the trumpets were like, I hate this so much. And all 13, we had a like less than 30-person band for our orchestra band, which is the
Hmm.
only band we had, so we played everything. Like less than 30 people, and 13 of us were saxophones.
See, I feel like that's poor planning.
No, that's the saxophone stuck around because we bullied the younger saxophones into staying and joining band.
Yeah.
So,
It still sounds like having a party that's just four fighters and maybe a monk.
yeah, pretty much. Like we had three trumpets, a couple bass. Like we had two bass players, three trumpets, bunch of clarinets who you can't hear for shit because they're clarinets, and I have a big old saxophone. Like, my
Yeah.
saxophone was bigger than some of the flute players, and I only know this because I'm dating one of the flute players, and the saxophone was bigger than her.
I interesting.
The case for the saxophone was absolutely
Oh, the
massive, and you.
case. I was just
Oh
like, I
no
know the
no
instrument was not actually larger than a person, so I don't know if this is just like an exaggeration and how to take it, or okay, the case. That makes a bit more sense.
the case was massive. The actual instrument of one of the saxophones I played was bigger than Olivia.
What the heck?
Oh yeah, dude. Quickly look up a sub contrabass saxophone. It is 8 feet tall. How the fuck do you play that shit? We
Yeah, that's
saw
quite
one.
impressive.
We saw one when we went to the Met in New York. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, that would be so much fun to play for like 2 bars, and that's it. Because after that, I'd have no air left.
Too much lung capacity, yeah.
Like, I've got a good lung capacity. I can play 32. Like, I can play 32 bars on a um, soprano saxophone, 16 bars on an alto, uh, 12 bars on a tenor, and 4 bars on a baritone saxophone.
Hmm.
So it's not like I have a small lung capacity to be able to play it. It's just, oh my goodness, I would be taking a breath every other note because that's so
Yeah.
much air to put into an instrument. Like, it would be brutal, but it would be so much fun. For my entire grade 12 year, so like my senior year, I play instead of playing an alto saxophone, which is a lot smaller. I
Hmm.
played a baritone saxophone, which is 2 octaves lower than an alto,
Yeah.
but the same key. So any alto music that I see, I can play with the same fingerings as on my baritone. So I used to really mess with the music director, and me and one of the altos would switch music.
Hmm.
So one of the altos would have the bass line 2 octaves higher, and I would have the melody 2 octaves lower. And first of all, no matter like it's 2 octaves, so it's still the keys still match, everything still sounds fine, but it's lower. So it sounded so smooth when we played jazz and did that.
Yeah.
But listening to the alto play the bass line, it was like it was so funny to me. It just killed me. I liked that more than actually playing the melody on my baritone. I just liked hearing the alto trying to play the bass line. But because I'm also like a big musical guy, there's a lot of musicals where there's duets in the songs.
Yeah.
So then, if I enjoy a musical and Amy, who is one of my friends who I haven't talked to in a while, who played the at least 20 different instruments, it was so easy to find duet music for the two of us because I could literally pick any duet that had a baritone as one of the instruments, and she could probably play the other instrument, which made it great on tour day because we used to like go on tours to all the public schools, like
Yeah.
for all the little kids, and like we did one around Christmas time where we played a bunch of Christmas music, and then we did one in the summer where we just played whatever the heck we felt like. And then in between songs, we'd do like little demos of each instrument. So then for the saxophone demo, me and Amy would get up there and play a duet, which for us, one, saved time so we could play more songs like with the whole band, but also just always sounded better than everyone else's because it was a duet rather than one instrument. So you could get like funky sounding things in there rather than just straight up one instrument playing one note at a time, because that's how you can play on an instrument unless you're a guitar or a piano, I
Yeah.
guess. Anything with strings in it. Question: is a
Yes.
piano a string instrument or a percussion instrument? Thoughts?
Like, are you saying what it's officially classified as, or like my personal opinion?
It doesn't have an official classification.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I
We
I know I've heard it called both because it's percussion on strings, but then you get into this whole conversation of like, what do you define as the impact? Because then is strumming a guitar, it is also an impact. It's just
a
coming from the
different
side rather
impact,
than
yeah.
directly on. So if and so then is it, well, guitar uses a pick and or your fingers, whereas a piano uses a little hammer. So then is it the hammer slash the stick of percussion that uses various instruments to strike the object as opposed to just your fingers? Like
I
I think
heard
they're
that argument, and then immediately our drummer picked up a guitar pick and went and did a drum roll with 2 guitar picks in either hand and went, "See, you can use them as drumsticks." And the guy just went, Huh.
I'm so happy to hear that me as a non-musical person, just going to the legal backdrops in my mind that like the debater Joe that's just ready for these kinds of questions is actually like following the correct
Yeah.
path as far
Oh
as
no.
musicians are concerned.
100%. And the fact that I think it does technically have a classification, but like, should it?
Should it? Yeah. So I think the better question isn't um is a
Does it
piano
have to be?
percussion or strings, but
Does it
is a
have to
guitar
be?
percussion or string?
Does it have to be? It counts. Oh, hold on. In the Britannica, it falls under the
Portaphone.
realm of both. Well, fuck you too.
What the heck is a
literally,
chordophone?
literally everything says it falls into the realm of both.
Yeah, similar to a lyre or harp, as strings stressed between 2 points, strings vibrate to produce sound.
Okay.
Rather than by plucking, or also falls in the realm of percussion as a result. Yeah, it can't be both. Pick one, Britannica.
You can't have it both ways.
uh yeah, because that's a good point. Is because other strings like violin, um,
but a
use a
violin
bow
is. But it
that
doesn't
run across it.
always.
In traditional sense, yes.
Unless you're using it as a fiddle. Like, yes, you can use a bow when you're using it as a
Yeah,
fiddle. But, like, you can just straight up strum a violin and it sounds freaking great.
yeah. No, I personally am fine with pianos just being pianos and not falling into either, because while the argument for both makes sense and that it's hammers that are striking the string and it's string that's emitting the noise, neither of those elements are what you interact with as a musician.
No, not at
You
all.
play the keys. So if you want to argue it's a percussion because you smash the keys, fine. If that's your reasoning for it being a percussion. But if you're purely talking about the strings and the hammers, I don't know if that's the right place to start, because the keys are how you interact. And the delineation between it being a stringed instrument versus a percussion that implements strings is how you interact with it.
So the reason I asked this is because there's technically 5 families. I think there's technically 7, but no one gives a fuck about the other 2. There's 5 families of musical instruments, and they are strings, so like
Yep.
guitars, violins, woodwinds, which are anything with a reed, so like saxophones, sousaphone, not sousaphones,
Yep.
brass, which would be sousaphones, trumpets, trombones, all that fun stuff, percussion, and then the 5th one is keyboards.
Yeah.
Because they were just like, we don't know what the fuck to do with these things.
I'm fine with pianos being classified as keyboards.
I mean, they have a keyboard,
Yeah.
so I'd hope so.
And that's how you interact with the instrument.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
We solved it, Michael.
We
We
did it.
solved world hunger.
The thing... I like to say, if you go to the Wikipedia, if you look for family brackets musical instruments brackets, it is strings. No research. No, it doesn't cite you to anything. Woodwind doesn't cite you to anything. Brass doesn't cite you to anything. Percussion doesn't cite you to anything. Keyboards cites you to 3 different places.
Because in case people don't believe you.
Like, oh yeah, no. We can understand brass. That makes sense. But keyboards? How dare you? Do you play instruments? Have you ever played an instrument?
So I took drum lessons as a kid, but my instructor was mean, and I don't remember that. I say mean. He wasn't mean. He just didn't have the patience to deal with like 8-year-old me. So
Fair.
I got very frustrated and discouraged. I was not. Let's say I was not a bothersome child, but then I'll take that back. I was
I
not
met you when you were 11 and
bothersome.
you chose to hang out with me, so that means you are a bothersome child, alright?
Okay, well, well, what
You
I was
chose to
going to
hang out with
say
me,
is like,
therefore.
as ADHD as I am, I didn't present it super strongly as a child. Like I was a weird kid, don't get me wrong, but I never presented issues for adults.
Yeah, no, I never said
Very
anything about ADHD. I just meant you
yeah.
you intentionally hung out with me on purpose. So
No,
clearly.
but what I was getting at is I don't want when I say he didn't have the patience to deal with 8-year-old me, I needed to make it clear that it wasn't because I was like off the walls being like manic or ADHD or something. It was just because I was struggling to
Learn how to play the
pro-
drums.
to progress.
Yeah.
Yes. And apparently he would also just like miss appointments or cancel last minute and a bunch of stuff. So I think he was probably smoking weed. Because I don't
I
think he was
mean,
doing any hard drugs. But just like looking back at what I vaguely remember him looking like, yeah, I just don't think he's the most repeatable person. So my mom didn't really care to cancel my lessons, like when I just got frustrated and was finally fed up with it. Um, my sister learned to play guitar, but she didn't really go far with it. But two of my best friends growing up play guitar, and they play a bunch of instruments now for various reasons. Well, I think the one only plays guitar, but the other guy like did band, so he plays saxophone as well, guitar. So he's picked up a few different instruments. And so I am still pretty good at keeping tempo. That is something I did retain from drums.
you would be so surprised how many people will go through 4 years of band and cannot keep tempo for shit.
That's terrible.
Drives me
But
nuts.
I didn't really retain anything else. Um and so I tried to teach myself guitar once because we just had a guitar laying around in like a learning book, but I couldn't stick with it. And so I like instruments. I think I would enjoy playing instruments, but I never learned. And at this point, I think it'd be too much effort to try and learn because my brain's not as tactile or whatever it's called.
I feel like
Um,
instruments are really good to learn when you're younger, like I'd say before 18, 19, or you are over 60
and you just have time.
and you just have so much time on your hands.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. But yeah, so basically, the issue I ran into is he drilled into like this one bar that I had to memorize that I think was it was hi hat on probably every potential different count you could think of. But then it was snare on twos and fours and bass on ones and threes. So just like very simple, very rudimentary, like this is the first thing you need to learn with drums. But then the problem was as soon as we prepared to advance from that, we spent so much time on that first thing, I couldn't overcome muscle memory. And so I would play like the new bar I was trying to learn like maybe 2 or 3 times in a row, and then I'd slip back into the uh first bar. And so I just couldn't progress because I just couldn't do anything other than that one thing
I
because
bet
that was
that
so easy.
the pattern he drilled into you was bass on one, snare on three, hi hats in between, and on one. So hi hat on one, two, three, four, bass on one, and snare on three, because that is like the base of everything else.
Well, I don't know what tempo it was at, but it
Or
was
something similar to that at a higher
yeah,
tempo, that kind of thing.
because the counts was yeah, just like 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
and
then that
then
would be
1
you'd
and
be
2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E.
yeah.
And so those were the tempos I learned, but it was always snare on 2 and 4 and bass on 1 and 3,
Yeah.
doing that rate. And so I just never progressed because I just kept getting stuck. And I was close to getting past it when I quit because he was getting very frustrated with me and like giving up on me. Um, so I just think he wasn't a very good teacher. in that sense. I mean, the one thing he taught me very well. But um I also don't know if like that pattern just really resonated with my busted up mind and was comforting for some reason or something. Um so yeah, I can keep a tempo and like tap out a little beat while listening to music, but that's it. It's all rather tragic.
Yeah, no, that when you hear of beatboxing, what's the first thing you think of?
Just beatboxing in general.
Yeah, what's the
Like
first beat that you would come to your mind?
I'm not going to try to beatbox right now. So I'm trying to think of how to verbalize what I'm thinking. Um
If you say boots
yeah.
and cats really fast, it gives you a good basic beat.
You know, Boots and Cats is because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's
Uh,
exactly what that rhythm
that's
is.
not what I think of though. I think of
Ah,
like a da 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 da.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
I know what you're thinking of.
like the one and then delay and then the both kind of. I don't know,
Yeah,
but that's just
that's
like
what Ride uses, like the song "Ride" by 21 Pilots.
mhm,
That's the rhythm of drum that they use, and I only know that because I have bruised the outside of my or the if you make a fist like where your thumb and index finger are, I have bruised that so many times listening to that song because I love the
yeah,
bass line, like the drum line in it on the outside of my car while I'm driving with the window down. So I'll do that on the outside of my car while I'm driving, and I'll have especially if I'm driving like a good distance, I'll listen to a song two or three times while I'm driving, like the same song over, like right after
yeah,
itself, two or three times while I'm driving. And so, like driving to work or something, I'd listen to that song like two or three times on the way into Simcoe. Oh, my hand! I got to work and I've got a giant bruise on my hand. Jeff's like, Mike, I thought you stopped punching trees, and I'm like, I did, but I listened to a really good song on the way over.
yeah. When I'm keeping tempo in the car, I pound like the bottom of my closed fist, like if I were karate chopping, but with a fist. For like the bigger beats, and then for the more like hi hat or snare, I do a flat open palm.
Yep, I do the exact same thing with the other side of my fist on the outside of my car. The inside of my fist, as if I was, I don't know, holding a knife. I guess
Yeah,
that's a threatening way to hold a knife. Holding a sword. I actually only hold knives the other way, but that's a story for another time. If I was holding a sword and hitting that on the outside of my car, and then open palm for the snare, and then my right hand does the hi hat
yeah.
on the steering wheel, because I have to turn sometimes.
Or do we want to talk about NF?
Oh my fucking god, yes.
Okay, because NF is an artist that is very important to both of us for
100%.
arguably slightly different reasons. But he's definitely like, if there is an artist that I associate with you, not just like, ah, yes, Mike likes NF, but like our relationship, I think first NF.
Oh
Now I
yeah.
think probably second grandson, but that's a very recent development.
Yeah.
Uh,
100%.
and so I
Uh
would say like you lean more into NF than I do, but I lean more into grandson than you do, and
yeah.
it's just a happy place we're at. But yeah,
Yin and yang.
uh,
I'm
yeah,
NF with a little bit of grandson and your grandson with a little bit of NF, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, very very apt. Um, I don't really know how we're going to talk about NF though.
I do.
That's the only okay.
I
Well,
got
just
this.
lead the conversation there, bud.
Um I love NF's music so much because he does have like he has acute anxiety, he has OCD, and so there's so many things that he can put into words because he's good at that kind of thing that I can't that I relate to so well. When I first heard the song Mansion, it was like a freaking light bulb got turned on, man. Like, for me, it's something I had felt my whole life where I like compartmentalize. My brain is compartmentalized into like rooms, and I had never been able to explain that to anyone before. And then I heard Mansion, and I was like, oh snap, that's exactly what I'm thinking, and I just couldn't put it into words. Um, and there's some other songs that are like, wow, that's kind of depressing, but like also that makes sense.
Yeah.
In one of his songs, "Leave Me Alone," he does a really good job of really breaking down what OCD, like simplifying what OCD means and how it actually feels to have OCD rather than, oh man, I have to keep my room clean and shit like that. I just define what the actual, because I don't want to misquote it. No, fuck's sake, typed in the wrong thing. But I want to find the actual lyrics so I'm not misquoting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, he says, I obsessively obsess on things I think about means I might take a normal thought and think it so profound. So it's just the fact that he puts things that I have experienced my whole life and can't uh, say out loud because I didn't have the words. He gave me the words by him finding the words. It gave me the words to be able to explain it to people easier.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the progression of his music, it's like he is trying to get better, and clearly he is getting a little bit better because if you listen, like if you actually listen to his words, not just listen to his music and like, oh man, this is a great song. You actually listen to what he's saying in his words, like you can see his journey and how he's actually actively getting better rather than just sitting still and oh man, my life sucks. He's not doing that. He's like actively working and trying to get better, and you can hear that in his lyrics, which to me, like it shows weakness, which a lot of guys aren't willing to show, just in general. Not even like in the rap game. Like that's just a lot of guys aren't willing to show that weakness. Like, hey, yeah, I'm fucked up, but I'm working on it. Like at least I'm doing something about it.
Yeah. And on that note, I think that weakness is maybe something that draws me more into it because I don't have OCD. So a lot of the mental health issues that he discusses, or even the ways he's processed and dealt with them, don't relate to me. For example, just sticking on Mansion, like my head is a very confusing and mysterious place, but it's not compartmentalized at all. It's more similar to like a junkyard, right? Like if you walk into a junkyard, sure, there might be a bunch of Fords over there, a bunch of Dodges over there. There's the truck section, there's the car section. But more often than not, like it's just yeah, there's cars. There's some stuff around. Oh, there's some appliances. And so for me, it feels more like just going through a trash pile. And I know roughly where everything should be in the trash pile, but sometimes things get misplaced or they're just not in the right place. And so I don't relate to it as much on the compartmentalized or on leave me alone, just being directly about OCD. I can still relate and appreciate the songs as just someone struggling in their own ways, but just his willingness to talk about certain issues and the pain and knowing the source of the pain, I am able to relate to and find some solace in,
Yeah,
right? Like for example, like Notepad. I really like the song Notepad. I don't have a notepad. I don't have something that I've used to store all my thoughts or some sort of like close diary or journal. And as he's going through the song Notepad, I don't remember the word specifically, and I'm not going to look him up real quick. Um, basically, he's talking to the notepad like it's a person. He personifies it as his only friend. And it's kind of revealed later that it's like not a close friend. It's his notepad that he's just taken solace in. And for me, not having something like that, but still spending so much of my childhood alone in my thoughts, spending so much time where if I did have the kind of brain where I wrote a lot of stuff down, I would have had notepads.
Oh
Um,
man.
but I just don't have that kind of brain. I just kind of dwell on things for a while and then move on, and maybe I'll return to them. And so for me, I relate to that a lot with not the notepad being like a physical thing I've written in, but just being my brain.
Yeah.
Um, because like you know how in like elementary school, popularity is basically based off of who's the fastest.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I've probably talked to you about this.
Who goes
Um,
Zoom?
in my elementary school, in like one year in particular, I don't remember what grade this was, but this grade like was a very bad year for me. Um, and that's another thing is I'm not someone who like has discovered their mental health issues like since hitting high school or hitting college. I'm someone who has always struggled since elementary school, since probably I was 5, I think, actually. And I just never found help because I just thought I was normal. Um, and so then I just kind of coasted through those issues until they got really bad in college. And I was like, oh, I am not okay. This is not normal. All of these things are like very strange. But yeah, so in one particular year, there was 3 guys in my class, myself included, that were the fastest at running the mile, which we had to run either the mile or a certain amount of laps before uh at the beginning of PE every day, and then we like had recess or whatever as the rest of it. And so I was never first, but I was always second. I was never third either. And so it was myself, Will, and Grant. And Grant and Will would swap between first and third. And Grant and Will were well liked by everyone and got along well with everybody and were popular. And I got along with them. But I was not well liked and was not popular. And so the like fundamental, just simplest of children's games that would then be based off of speed, tag. Nobody wanted to play tag with me. And so at recess, while Grant and Will are chasing down everybody and everybody's playing tag and having fun, I could run at the person who was it and they would run away from me. But not like I was it. Like if I caught up to them and tagged them, they'd just be like, "What are you doing?" and then leave me alone. And so being unable to play like just a very fundamental children's game because I was just a little odd. I spoke a little funny because part of that was just a cultural difference of having moved from the north, but part of it was also just being me. I've never spoken like a normal person. Um,
Where's the fan now?
yeah, I just didn't get along with people, and so I spent most recesses under the jungle gym, just sitting in the mulch alone. Like it's like a 1 foot little or maybe 2 foot little gap as I'm just laying in the mulch, like just thinking.
You got
And I don't
mulch? We had rocks.
and I don't know how no teacher at ever point was just like, why does Joe sit in the dirt every day alone and just like pick up the mulch? Like obviously someone needs to talk to this kid. Um but yeah, so for me, I didn't have a notepad. It was just my brain. It's in certain songs like that, I just really resonated with a lot in that sense. Um, and so yeah, not relating in exactly the same ways, but in close enough ways that I enjoy the music. It means a lot to me, especially on a tough day. But it's not as impactful as it is for you.
I have a line. I have a couple lines here of NF's music. Just the contrast between two songs showing his like growth
Yeah,
through it. That is such a big uh such a big deal to me anyway. it could be mean like nothing to other people, but to me, um, the first line's from Mansion. It's near the very end of the song. Fear came into my house years ago. I let him in. Maybe that's the problem, because I've been dealing with this ever since. I thought that he would leave, but it's obvious he never did. He must have picked a room and got comfortable and settled in. That's, like, man, I let fear in, and I really shouldn't have, because now he's stuck here, and I
Yep.
can't get rid of him. 2 albums later, he writes a song. The intro of the album is intro number 3 for his third album.
Yep.
Um, and the whole song is him having a conversation with fear. So it's him talking to himself, but like not really. Um, and I really love the song just in general. I think it's a great song about how he's been trying to deal with this, and the whole first part of the first half of the song is just fear belittling him. Like, you can't make an album without me. What the heck are you doing? Um, so in the song he talks about he dug a grave and put fear in it, and it ends with, "Put the shovel away. Time to go back in the house now. You'll be out in a week. Telling me you want your room back, but that's funny. What, you ain't got nowhere to sleep? I'm gonna just look out the window and laugh at you. This is crazy to me, because I thought you had me in prison this whole time, but I'm the one holding the keys." And so he's not only is he showing his weakness in his first album, where he's like, "Hey, this shit's hard and fear's here, and I don't know how to get rid of that. Like, I don't know what I'm doing." To the entire contrast of album 3, where he's like, I'm in control now. I realize this now. I thought you had me all locked up in here and I couldn't do anything about it, but I'm the one holding the keys. Like, I get to decide who lives here in this mansion of mine, in my head. And it's time for you to fucking go. Like, we're done. You're out of here. And so to me, that's like such a powerful thing to do. And I feel like that can apply to anybody, whether that's some small shit you're going through that you keep thinking about, or that's some big stuff that you've been dealing with your whole life. He's he's actually working on improving and then showing his results to people, not just showing his weakness, which I freaking love so much.
Yeah.
'Cause it shows that he cares enough to not only, you know, like, yeah, I need somewhere to vent and get all this off my chest. No, like, it's like when I'm talking to you about whatever's going on that week that's really put me in a big bind. Like, yeah, I get you off my chest, but then the next time I'm like, "Hey man, this happened and I finally got that weight off my chest and it feels fucking great." Except he's doing that with millions of people because he's talented.
Yeah.
No, man,
No,
I'm
and
glad you brought that up.
no, the moment we agreed to talk about music, like literally like I don't know, 11:06, I was like, we're gonna talk about NF. Like, I knew it was coming, I just didn't know when it was going to happen, and then I was like, we're almost done, and we haven't talked about it. And like, I know how much NF means to Michael. I can't let us not talk about NF.
I could record an hour-long podcast by myself talking
I
about how
know.
much I love NF. Like, honestly. But that's not what
You know,
we're here for. We're here to talk about just random shit. Just show
I
up
would
one day when Joe
say,
cancels and do it myself.
yeah, I would say probably my top like NF songs are probably going to be Therapy Session. I really
Oh,
enjoy.
man.
So good.
I could spend
And
half an hour talking about therapy session on its own.
even just like, not even just lyrically, but just the
Like,
sound of it.
oh yeah.
Um, How Could You Leave Us, I think, is very good. Um, because at least for me, I have a lot of frustrations with at least one person in my life who died and shouldn't have. And it may or may not have been related to like drug or alcohol abuse. We don't know. There wasn't an official autopsy because it was a car crash. Um, but I have some frustration with that I kind of deal with through that song, but more often than not, I just deal with my own like personal frustrations with my own mom, who has not died, to be clear. Um, but I have felt abandoned by her throughout my life for various reasons. That I don't really want to get into right now because this isn't therapy and I don't really know how to put all of those feelings into words at the moment because it's not something I've addressed out loud with anybody like ever. Um, but I'm able to process some of that through that. Um, and so at least from the therapy session album, those are like my main go-to songs. I don't think there's anything specifically on Mansion that stands out a lot other than just Mansion and intro. And every single one of NF's intro songs
Oh,
just
his
goes
intros are so
so
fucking good.
unnecessarily hard. Um,
I would
for
say from Perception, Let You Down, and Outcast, man, man,
I,
those two songs.
yeah, I think lyrically, I I really resonate with Outkast.
I thought you were gonna say Let You Down. That's the one I resonate with so hard.
Um,
I
well,
like
I'll
Outcast, and
get
I
there.
lyrically I do like Outcast, but Let You Down, man, that's how I felt my whole life.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was gonna get at. Is lyrically, I resonate a lot with Outkast, like kind of the punk side combined with mental health of just like, yeah, I'll just if this is who I'm gonna be, then like fuck all y'all, I'll just go do it.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I'll be that guy. And that was literally just an experience I had with the debate team at college my freshman year, where I was just kind of vilified for a couple of different things, and then by like the end of the year, I was just like, look, it. You guys kind of like slowly but surely pushed me into this corner, but if you're going to put me in the corner, if I'm the villain, I'll be the biggest, baddest villain you've ever met. And
if
I
we're gonna
burned
go there,
so many
I'm
bridges
gonna go
so
there. All right.
unapologetically. Yeah, I was just like, oh, like I said some shit, like there were screenshots sent around, like so much where like I was just causing issues. And it was literally like I showed up ready to be friendly with everybody. Like I was down for the cause. I was down to just be around, be friendly, be a good person. And they put me in a corner and I lashed out. And it took a while for me to get there. And it like the lashing out slowly but surely built up. So it wasn't just like all at once. I definitely played some part into it, but I was turned into a villain and I fully adopted it. And since then, like some people have come to realize like what exactly was going down and things have gotten better. Um but yeah, Let You Down is hard to listen to. Um Sometimes because I don't know too terribly much about your early life. Like you and I have only really opened up to each other in the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah,
Um, and so before that, obviously we were friends, but like we were seeing each other for 2 weeks of the year.
yeah.
Um, so we weren't that crazy
You
close of
you can
friends.
only cover so much.
Yeah. But for so much of my life, like my father told me that most of the time I enter a room, I'm going to be the smartest person in that room, which I never want to tell any of my children, regardless of how smart they am. Like I am a smart person, but that does one of two things. It either feeds an ego that eventually becomes a problem, or it sets an expectation that you don't feel you can meet.
Yeah,
And so while I did good with my grades all through grade school, all I have ever wanted to be my entire life is normal and average. Just just I want to fit in. I remember being in Sunday school once and someone was like the teacher was like, "When you die, how many of you want someone to remember you?" And everyone raised their hand except me. And he was like, "Really? When you die, you don't want a single person to remember who you are? Like, no kids, no wife?"
Absolutely not.
And I was just like, I mean, maybe,
My
but at the end of the day,
dog.
like, I'm very fine just fading into the background, living my peaceful existence. Because I don't need everybody to remember who I was. If I just put a smile on someone's face for a day and they completely forget who I am a week later, that's fine by me.
Yeah.
I brought them happiness in that moment. And so for me, like my standards have always been so low because everyone else's standards for me have been so high. And
Oh,
I haven't wanted to
absolutely.
meet them. Um and that continued it so that kind of fell apart in university when I'm here on a full ride. Well, I was. I dropped out of the honors program, which made me lose some money. So now I'm going for very cheap. But because I did so well on my tests and stuff, like I'm smart and the school expects a lot from me. And I'm just like, look, I never wanted any of that. I've my entire life just wanted to be a C student. Like I've just wanted to pass, clock in, clock out, go
Dude,
home. I don't
C's
need to
get
be someone
degrees,
notable.
okay?
Yeah. And now like people say that to me, like trying to encourage me, like just like you just need a little bit, Joe. And I'm just like, no, you don't understand. Like I could rule this school if I cared and I had my stuff together, but I don't, and I don't care. And so just the standards that have been placed on me by my family, by people I know, by even just like friends, um, are so high that I've never wanted. And so for me, like sometimes I just it's a lot and I just feel like such a letdown and I would rather just apologize and everyone forget and I can move on with my life.
I'm the opposite, but we'll get into that another time.
Yeah. Like I don't want to be a letdown. But if I'm going to be a letdown, let me fade into the background and be forgotten.
Yeah, which is fair. Like,
And someone might listen to this and be like, Joe, that is very much not healthy. Like, seek immediate help. And they're
haha, I
fine.
have seeked help.
It's whatever. I've never sought help. I don't need no help.
Okay,
I'm
buddy.
fine. I'm fine.
Okay, buddy. And I'm a
literally,
magical unicorn.
literally, last night I was in TeamSpeak with a bunch of people, and I was just like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna head to bed. I just can't find any games I want to play, so I think I'm just gonna sleep." They're like, "Yeah, that just means you're depressed," and I was like, "No, I'm not depressed."
Well, yeah, but why? Why does that mean
and
that?
they're and they're just like, "Yeah, you just like dissatisfied with life." They're like, "Once you have depression, you can never get rid of it. You might like kind of get
Whoa,
over
whoa,
it, but it's
whoa.
always gonna be something you have." And I'm just like,
That's just not true.
"No, like." Sure, like I mentioned earlier, like I've had issues since I was 5. So I've probably like had depression since I was like 7. But
It is a
like
hundred
because I've
percent a thing that you can like genuinely get better and
yeah,
not
like
feel like shit all the time.
a year and a half ago, I actively wanted to die. Now, shoot, like sure I still think about getting hit by a car every time I go through a crosswalk, but I don't hope for it anymore. I'm just like, "Huh, would that be funny?" Like if I'm doing fine, I'm much less concerning and
I
much
was
more
gonna
content in
save this
life.
until the episode about mental health, but I'll say it now because of that comment. This summer was the first time in 4 years that I haven't tried to kill myself. And to
Mhm.
anyone who says you can't get better in your mental health or you can't get rid of depression, I am headed in the right direction. And I've never been in a better and also somehow worse mental state than I am right now. And it feels absolutely fantastic. Like, because it
Yeah,
feels like I
no,
actually did something.
I I've gotten close to having some panic attacks this semester, but I've been I haven't had any, which is an improvement. And I haven't had any like suicidal intentions, recollections. Like, obviously, I've thought about dying, but like the level of actually considering it and wanting to proceed in over a year. So I'm definitely doing better. I've never sought help. I would not say no to help if it were given to me on a silver platter, but I ain't gonna go look for that platter because that's too much effort.
Oh man, at the new shop. Speaking of which, being handed something like that on a silver platter, um, at the new shop, one of the first things he mentions to me about my benefits is because
Meant-
I work in a shop. He goes, "You can go see a shrink." The first thing in benefits he talked to me about was you can go see a shrink. It's absolutely free. The company pays for it entirely. All you have to do is sign up, and we don't even know if you've signed up or not. Like it is all up to you whether you want who you want to know
yeah,
about your mental health. Like we have no part in it unless you want us to. Like
that's
unless you just
fantastic.
want someone around the shop that you can talk to about it, go ahead.
Yeah, and see, I know my university has free counseling, but I also have a friend who went to said free counseling, sat through one session, and they literally like told her, "Yeah, you're too messed up. Here's professional help." Because you get like four free sessions, I think, with the university, and during that time, they determine whether or not you need help. And if they determine you need help
Oh
and they
man,
can
not even
provide
worth
for it,
going.
you can well, you continue to receive help from the university if they deem that they can help you and you need help.
Still
Um,
not worth going.
which I then think means that the only people they turn away are people that are actually like so far gone, because I don't think they'll turn away people that are just like mildly stressed.
Yeah,
Um, and so I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to show up for them to just be like, oh, by the way, you're no longer going to be able to access this free counseling. Now you actually have to go to a real doctor, and that's going to be on your medical insurance, which means like your parents would find out. Which my parents know I'm not okay, but I don't really want them to know to like what extents.
yeah,
Like I'd rather them just be like, Joe's having a hard time, but he'll probably be fine.
yeah,
Versus, oh, Joe has started seeking professional help, and now like we have to pay for that.
yeah.
So once I've like gotten a job which has medical benefits and I'm on my own insurance, sure, why not? But until then, I'm good.
That sounds like a great segue. Not for next week, because next week, do you know what
It's
next week's gonna be?
it's Kyle.
Kyle! Kyle!
Kyle.
Kyle is gonna be joining us next week, but it's a good backup plan for next week if Kyle can't show up.
Yep. And so we have to talk to Kyle about what next week will be. It will either be us talking about camp,
Which would be
and
fun.
it would be fun, and how we got to know each other and stuff like that, which would be a good episode to introduce Kyle with, both as just a way to introduce Kyle, but as well as to maybe answer some questions about our past.
Yeah.
The other alternative is just saying, screw getting to know Kyle. We're going to do something
No, no, no.
dumb and
You'll get to know Kyle.
play one of the various games that I'll think up of, or potentially just get into an argument about
Man,
something like pianos being
if we
percussion
can
or
get
strings.
Kyle heated before 11 o'clock and then, like, let it sit there while we do our intro and then bring it up again, it will be so good of an episode.
We'd have to find something so controversial to bring up. I don't know. Kyle would also be a good guest for if we ever go into the political foray, which I know like politics is taboo as a topic and we don't typically want to talk about it. But
So is
basically, I've talked,
depression. So.
so is depression, as well as I've also talked about anarchy enough. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine talking about politics, because that's the thing. Like, a political discussion with me is not about like conservatives versus liberals or this or that or like current
What
topics.
political system we should be using.
It's not, yeah, it's not like the controversial like, oh, let's talk about abortion, or oh, let's talk about this, because it's not like, oh, is abortion like a baby's rights or a woman's rights or reproductive rights or this or that? And I'm just like, why does that matter? Murder should be legalized. Fuck the children.
I don't care
That's
what
not
age they
even
are.
saying abortion is murder. It's just saying if I believe murder should be legal,
Why
that
does it
doesn't
matter
mean
if
murdering
abortion
fetuses would be legal. Like,
abortion does not matter at that point? You're right.
yeah, we have bigger fish to fry than abortion if we're going to talk about my political views. Uh,
You can
well,
find us on YouTube at CNM in the PM. If you're on YouTube, you can find us on Twitch at CNM in the PM, or you can find us on Spotify at C the and symbol M in the PM.
yep,
Thank you for joining us on this wild ride.
it's
It
been
has been
another one.
fun. I'm glad we talked about music that entire time and nothing else.
Michael, this is what we signed up for. This
This
isn't
is
what I told
exactly
you
what
we
we
signed up
signed
for.
up for.
This is
No.
this is what we knew we were signing up for, but we pretended we weren't signing up for so that
Yeah,
when we
you
got to
right.
this point, we would enjoy it.
You right.
Yeah, we're here.
We'll see you all next Saturday with special guest Kyle.
Kyle.
Kyle.